Hello, everyone. Glad to be here with all of you today. Um, my name is Oscar Ramirez. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Startup Commons, a company based in Helsinki with the mission of organizing world's innovation and entrepreneurship data for ecosystem development to enable more successful startups globally. So today, I would like to share with all of you some tips around how to improve ecosystem development and resilience with open standard frameworks based on our experience working with more than 30 ecosystems around the world. And I really hope all of you can get some hands-on takeaways from this session and apply them in your local ecosystem. So additionally, at the end of my session, I think that we will have some time for Q&A, so feel free to leave your questions in the chat feature. All right, good. So then let's get started. So, in this pandemic crisis, we are living systems resilience is being tested like never before. It is more important than ever to ensure that key systems and infrastructures still work in this new normal. Health, education, logistics, all of them are critical and all of them are needed infrastructures for economic growth. Um, Startup ecosystems can be seen as another key infrastructure too. A startup ecosystem development is, I would say, a necessary condition for economic development because it has economic, social, and commercial impact. I would say it is the engine to foster entrepreneurship-led innovation, which is a positive and powerful driver for change and growth, where the pace of innovation pushes all businesses and societies forward and ultimately brings more prosperity to societies. And the thing is that as cities and countries progress and become more sophisticated, their infrastructure needs become more specific and complex in order to support ambitious growth and development plans. So therefore, cities, regions, and countries, and in general, those who are in the position to facilitate economic growth by entrepreneurship and innovation must ensure that startup ecosystems can continue to operate through this disruption that we are living by quickly addressing all the immediate challenges coming from the different ecosystem segments. And what are those challenges? I believe we can all agree that all ecosystem actors are operating in a new reality that challenges the way they used to operate and forcing them to adapt. So, for example, from a business creator perspective, the challenges are related to cash flow management, workplace setup, workforce productivity challenges due to employees working remotely or being infected, sadly, or challenges related to access to specific supporting services like training or mentoring or funding or acceleration, whatever. Uh, then, from support providers' perspective, like incubators or accelerators, their main challenges are related to how to deliver in a different service format or service continuity and sustainability. And then from the ecosystem builder's perspective, there is a big need of monitoring, reporting, and decision making with accurate data to respond to immediate ecosystem needs in a dynamic environment and in general to reprioritize actions and needs. And last but not least, there's a true challenge around how technology can be applied for ecosystem development. And while there are many technologies like blockchains, artificial intelligence, IoT that are already being applied to different industries, surprisingly, same does not apply to innovation entrepreneurship support functions and startup ecosystem development projects, and therefore wasting the benefits of digitalization, platform economies, data sharing, artificial intelligence, etc., which are key factors to bring efficiency and accelerate growth in any industry. So this is the reality of ecosystem development, and the truth is that ecosystems in general are invisible infrastructures full of talent, information, resources, connections, and so forth, all interacting at the same time to basically help entrepreneurs quickly find what they need at each stage of growth. And certainly, a startup ecosystem have a lot of interactions and data. So they have millions of the ideas, thousands of entrepreneurs, startups, investors, mentors, talents, IPs, events, pitching sessions, mentoring sessions, due diligence cases, services, matching events, etc. From a more visual point of view and at a high level, ecosystems are like this. So from a geographically perspective, we can have ecosystems at city or regional or national level, mainly led by government as the responsible bodies to develop the economy in a specific territory. And then we have business vertical ecosystems like fintech or food or health, mainly led by the big companies and corporates that are touching multiple ecosystems geographically, that contains most of the people and organizations working in the geographical ecosystems, and where you can still find the same information but duplicated. So therefore, we have a wide variety of combinations between ecosystems and related data, and also within each ecosystem. So from the lens of ecosystem builders, so the ones that are building the connections and looking at the ecosystem from a holistic view, it is quite easy to get lost. They are missing the big picture towards knowing the North Star to accelerate and scale the growth of the ecosystem as a whole. And most importantly, how to react effectively to the rapid changes we are experiencing. And really suffering and having a user experience similar to trying to find Waldo here, right? And also this applies to the different ecosystem actors. So in the middle of the mess, where can I get the right mentor for my startup? Where can I get good local team members, candidates? What is the available IP for my company? What innovation is happening in sector XYZ? What phases are the startups are? What is the return of investment of innovation support services? Where to invest to further improve and accelerate, what startups to promote to showcase to global investors. So we are consistently validating from ecosystem builders that the information they need to do their job is hard to find. And I would say that the bad news doesn't stop here. As an ecosystem grows, so do the challenges around the volume, complexity, and obscurity of data. And therefore, in a large and complex entity such as ecosystems, with an ocean of data resources, all ecosystem actors struggle to find the right data. And we like it or not, again, this is the reality. Ecosystem builders are still using outdated, manual, and inefficient working methods, and that has a big impact in the responsiveness to solve the challenges faced by ecosystems. And because of this, we have something similar to this domino effect, where a poor understanding of the ecosystem generates funding calls or policies or new services or new development plans that don't fit the reality, and therefore the impact is low or is not as big as expected. It is, I would say, something similar to surveys where the quality of answers are dependent on the quality of the questions. So therefore, the first step towards moving forward and enhance ecosystem development and resilience would be to really understand ecosystem dynamics, what's happening now, how people are behaving, how they are now consuming services, how they are connecting to each other, etc. So as only the things that are understood can be developed. Improving the connectivity at ecosystem level directly impacts on the ecosystem understanding and the efficiency of the ecosystem, that at the same time directly impacts on the scalability of innovation and entrepreneurship. And where the speed of collective execution and learning is the new unfair advantage. The more data there is, the more available it is, the more competitive the ecosystem can be. It is as simple as that. So therefore, data, information, and knowledge are the gasoline in the ecosystem that enable growth and resilience. And the data infrastructure is really the engine to make it happen, to create this engine. It is a collective challenge for everyone, and this is where collaboration is needed to start to work. So therefore, in a connected ecosystem with multiple actors, the need for end-to-end solutions is key, and the concept of open standard frameworks fit nicely as they are developed in a transparent process open to all interested parties, facilitating efficient knowledge adoption and collaborative efforts with people of different backgrounds and goals towards business creation and ecosystem development, and where standards are developed, adopted, and maintained by the community to enable interoperability across ecosystem actors and eventually accelerate ecosystem development. So this open standard framework would go beyond developing standardized terminology. It would also include best practices sharing, ecosystem governance models, KPIs, data models, APIs, applications, guidelines around ecosystem user experience, etc. So in short, an open standard framework is designed basically to enable frictionless ecosystems and building through collaboration for resilience, removing all type of barriers and silos within and between ecosystems in order to develop highly competitive, innovative solutions and companies. So therefore, we can say that we have the following building blocks for ecosystem resilience. So first of all, we have diversity, or also understood as redundancy, as the ability of an entrepreneur or a startup to switch to an alternate supporting function and also get access to additional services. Then we would have sustainability. So, operating and developing an ecosystem is a really hard task, full of complexities and uncertainties. And traditional approaches like planning a project and budget, then acquiring initial funding to start and operate, setting up the operations, run the operations on fixed budget to ongoing cost, and then trying to find revenues or funding to achieve financial sustainability along the way based on unvalidated assumptions at time of planning and budgeting, it really doesn't work. So a more agile approach is required with wide tolerances even against changes in political cycles, as ecosystems are, I would say, quite sensible to political changes, where prioritization and maintenance of the supporting infrastructures for innovation and entrepreneurship are often very likely to be politicized. So when a new government enters into power, it is very likely that existing strategies, budgets, key people, processes, tools, data, and history in general are at risk to be changed, where significant learning, knowledge, and progress will be lost. And I would say that many things, again, start from the scratch, and therefore ecosystems simply get stuck in their development. Then a third building block is the ecosystem governance. So who is driving the ecosystem? So when we think of ecosystem concept, by definition, it is not owned by anyone. It is not really considered being controlled by anyone. So therefore, when we look at the freedom and responsibility, they work hand in hand. So if there's no one whose responsibility it is to own the ecosystem, then there's no one responsible to make it work. And we can say that it must be a collective multi-stakeholder responsibility. But as we know, it doesn't work like that in practice. And therefore, there should be someone that could take this responsibility to look after the overall interest, becoming permanent, surviving the different political cycles, as we mentioned earlier, and neutral with support from outside independent help for objective and constructive plans and benefiting all ecosystem actors. And last but not least, we have the learning component as the ability of any ecosystem actor to get access to information and knowledge in order to be applied appropriately for different purposes, like, for example, finding the right resources for my startup or detecting emerging gaps or bottlenecks. And in general, making knowledge open with target to let anyone learn, experiment, and adjust, and therefore gaining adaptiveness and innovation at all levels. All right, so then how to get there in practice? So, well, certainly we cannot wait for the perfect conditions. The best moment to develop an ecosystem was 10 years ago, and the next best time to make it is now. So I have outlined a sort of high-level roadmap to help ecosystems become more resilient. So the first action to implement now would be around setting up an ecosystem forum function, an open forum between all key ecosystem actors interested in learning from or contributing to various ecosystem initiatives at various levels, and capturing ecosystems input to enable ecosystem level information sharing, initiating development actions, prioritizing and in general to address immediate issues and also bringing more alignment between bottom-up and top-down activities. Then the second step would be towards understanding your starting point through ecosystem mapping. So, as you know, startup ecosystems are fast, dynamic environments with many moving parts. There are new people, changing roles, projects, activities, events, as well as communities meeting and interacting every single week. So any separate manually collected information becomes quite quickly outdated. And here it is important to highlight that any ecosystem manual mapping exercise can only be as complete as the available allocated time, resources, and access to information for mapping each ecosystem. And it is also directly related to the constraints of the existing resources provided to go deeper. So therefore, it is highly valuable to conduct the mapping exercise in such a manner where a digital approach is considered along the way. So this includes a considered design for how to start automating the mapping of ecosystem programs and services, and start standardizing innovation entrepreneurship ecosystem information collection, as well as management processes for the future. So basically, this approach allows to repeat the process more cost effectively, in more detail as needed, and continue towards being able to get close to real-time situation understanding of innovation entrepreneurship in your ecosystem without the need of periodical, time-consuming, and non-scalable approaches. And finally, to have a digital strategy and related technological architecture in place to really start resolving ecosystem connectivity with a special focus on capturing core value at ecosystem level, which is about collecting and managing accurate structure and detailed information and enabling proper resourcing for doing it. So what are we creating at the end? So from a visual point of view, I would say that ecosystem management or ecosystem orchestration nowadays in general behave like a traditional organization. So working in silos, being quite slow to adapt, and I would say in general with poor understanding about how to take advantage of digital technology and data. And where the final target is basically to build an ecosystem that behaves as a digitally driven organization, embedding digital DNA at the core of governance and operations, with really commitment to ongoing innovation, and really enabling and managing connections for key actors and between stakeholders, and to basically compile information on startups across different channels, interactions, and points of contact between startups, support organizations, and stakeholders along the way. And eventually have a better way to observe the reality, anticipate and predict, and shape eventually the future. So I'm now open to all your questions. We don't have too much minutes, but anyway. So someone is asking me what is my best advice. So again, I'm repeating here those three components. So it's important to structure or to organize a structure where you are able to systematically collect information and from different dimensions of the ecosystem. And then, of course, we cannot do that without technology. So the amount of data and information that is needed to manage and orchestrate and really bring in value and put zero barriers for startups in their way to succeed. So we need to use a digital architecture that is able to bring this connectivity amongst the different ecosystem actors, while at the same time operating that from a neutral perspective that is able to bring benefit for everyone. what is the most important thing to focus on when an ecosystem needs to bounce back from a crisis, in your opinion? So I don't have any any medical recipe, or I mean, each ecosystem is quite different, and we need to understand what's happening in one specific ecosystem. So my best recommendation is to basically to get understanding about what's happening, what are the challenges that basically different ecosystem actors are facing, and at the same time, because most of those challenges are quite common in many other ecosystems around the world, to basically to bring more collaboration between different ecosystems to basically to become more cost effectively when it comes to defining or designing or building new solutions for startups. So basically, that would be my best recommendation. All right, so I think that we are running out of time. Back to Sophie. Thank you all for today.